and good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Tonight, we begin with a big focus on our children, on our youngsters, those in the age group of 0 to 17, 18, even 20. And we're going to talk about them because the central government has issued new guidelines for management of COVID cases, rather COVID treatment, however it is handled when children get infected. Now, while advising against the use of antiviral drug remdesivir, that was one of the big things that emerged from these new guidelines, the center has suggested use of paracetamol, warm saline gargles to really manage mild infections amongst children. So, in terms of the key takeaways, first up is use paracetamol if it's a mild infection with fever. Warm saline gargles have been recommended. Throat soothing agents have been recommended. And these are the important ones now. Steroids. They have recommended against the use of steroids for children. That's saying that these are harmful in asymptomatic and mild cases. That's actually for adults as well. But even more important will be to keep this in mind as far as the youngsters are concerned. They've also cautioned about the use of CT scan. There has to be rational use of CT scans that has been recommended. Now, these are as far as mild cases are concerned. Similarly, in moderate infections, initiate immediate oxygen therapy and a few other guidelines that have been given. But again, we have to keep in mind that this depends on the severity of the infection. For example, in severe cases, antimicrobials should only be used if there is confirmed bacteria infection. This is important again because often we see treatment, drugs, steroids being prescribed where they are not required, and that becomes even more harmful when the patient is a child. In severe cases, they also recommend a 6-minute walk test really to assess the oxygen levels. Here is the data. Why it's important to now design separate guidelines, prepare our pediatric wards, prepare the pediatricians and the support staff. Because if you look at the information, in the age group of 0 to 10, there have been 9,30,970 cases. In the age group of 11 to 20, there have been over 23 lakh cases. So collectively, we're looking at over 30 lakh cases, almost 32 lakh cases amongst this age group of 0 to 20. And there is a lot of conversation as going forward as we prepare for the third wave. If the number of infections are going to be higher than earlier, just how we saw the spike from first to the second wave, it could mean even more children. And so we need to get our preparation right. So let's speak to our experts, get all your queries answered, understand when it comes to children, how do we handle COVID infection. We say good evening to Dr. Chandrakant Lahiriya, Vaccine and Public Policy and Health Systems expert, joining us this evening. Dr. Rahul Nagpal, Director for Pediatric and Neonatology at Fortis Hospital in Delhi. Dr. Sunila Garg, member of the Lancet Commission and COVID India Task Force. Dr. Ravi, virologist, retired professor and head of virology at NIMHANS, joining us this evening. Dr. Samir Dalwai, spokesperson for NCP and also a developmental pediatrician, member of the Maharashtra Pediatric COVID Task Force, joining us this evening. Dr. Sunila Garg, let's start off with you because, I mean, just get a larger picture. We saw, just like overall cases went up, number of cases amongst children also went drastically up in the second wave. But what was the need to issue a separate set of guidelines? Why was that important that we spread that message?
Yeah, thank you, Tanvi, for having me on the show. First of all, I like to say that, these guidelines are dynamic and time to time they are being revised so that we have standardization and we have rational use of drugs, something like what we have done for adults as well. So we, because they are, in cases of mild infections or in asymptomatic infections, you do not require, except anything like paracetamol or, something like if there is cough, then we can give cough syrup or something like that. But you do not require more than paracetamol. That is important. So looking at so these children could be either asymptomatic or they could be, basically mildly symptomatic. So that is where the need is to avoid unnecessary use of drugs, where, like in form of steroids or in form of antibiotics, which a kind of they are provided by private practitioners, or they are provided by even other practitioners as well in bulk. So we need to come to a standardized treatment. Number two, your question was also that when we talk of children, particularly when we talk about 18 years of population, they are comprising of about 40% of our population. But if we look at the data in first wave and second wave, we have got approximately the same number of children who have been infected. So primarily, if I would say the data of April, May, basically we had approximately 29 lakh cases in Maharashtra. And then up from there, we had 99,000 children, which comprised of 3 to 3.5%. So similarly, we saw the number of cases in first wave also. So there is, you see, in terms of, we have to see when you pointed out the data also, in that also we saw that there are 3.36 children which are infected. So there is no need to worry as a whole, and we need to look at children like the way we are looking at adults, I will say like that. And we need to overall look at the systems as a whole, and we need not worry about. So that is where we need to have a multidisciplinary approach, which will focus on the children, which will have focus on the adults as well. So but as far as the children are concerned, we need not worry. That is important. We need to standardize our management. We need to look at the systems part, and we need to as the newer guidelines have been issued, that is also to standardize our prescription practices also. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, that what you just said, I was just going to talk more about that. Dr. Rahul Nagpal, the need to standardize our prescription practices, and even more important when we're talking about the younger generation and the children, where there shouldn't be rampant prescription of remdesivir or even steroids. That's extremely important. Dr. Nagpal, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Absolutely. What you said was the right thing. Children are not mini adults. Their treatment is basically, in any illness, is observation. I always tell my patients and parents, observation is a part of the treatment. You give observation to your child.
We seem to have some trouble with the feed of Dr. Nagpal. We're going to try and fix that feed and get back to him. But Dr. Sameer Dalwai, do come in on this aspect on why it's very important to get this message out.
I agree with the gentleman who was speaking just now. Good evening to all of you. It's very important that children are not considered as miniature adults. At the same time, it's a blessing in disguise. There's standardization of medical practice all across. In fact, you mentioned earlier, Ms. Tanvi, that there was a rampant overuse or abuse of antibiotics for even viral infections. And I'm glad that this guideline brought out by the government actually clears a lot of misconception. And it reinforces the feeling or the idea that we had that COVID is nothing but any other viral infection. And what they've been saying is that you need to observe, because most of them, up to 90% of children, will either be asymptomatic or mild. And we need to manage them with paracetamol and maybe warm saltwater gargles and things like that. What's very important is for parents to know two things. One, not to panic if it is a mild infection, but to know the signs at which they should not wait and should consult a pediatrician. And those signs are worsening of the fever not going down even after 3-4 days. More importantly, a change in the behavior of the child being lethargic, not being the usual, the mischievous child that we are used to. Very important, if the breathlessness increases, if there is a rash across over the body, if there is swelling of the eyes and swelling around the mucosa of the mouth, these are some danger signs at which point they should consult their pediatrician. And at other times, they should be able to just take it easy and not worry. But I'll add only one point. As a pediatrician with experience of so many years, whenever you feel your child is unwell, please take time off from your many other chores and work that parents have, mothers have so many tasks to do. But when the child is unwell in the face of this pandemic, a day or two, just take time off. So you can, when you said observation, is an important part of the treatment. Make sure that your mind is focused on the observation. Take a couple of days off, the child will be all right, you can go back to your work. So this is my advice, a very friendly advice as a practicing pediatrician. Thank you.
Let me see if I can take this point across to our other panelists as well. Dr. Chandrakant Lahiriya, we've had a lot of conversations on whether children may be more susceptible or not, and frankly, there isn't much evidence to say going forward they could be, more vulnerable than the rest. But any which ways, every parent's biggest anxiety point and nightmare is what happens if their child gets COVID infection, how to handle it, which is why perhaps it's important to have these conversations.
Yeah, thanks, Tanvi, and hello, everyone. So I think one of the key development in this period, last 1 month, is that there has been a lot of attention on health of the children. One thing has been clarified that children are unlikely to be affected in the subsequent wave, be third wave or fourth wave. The data is clearly indicating that children were equally affected. The proportion had not changed. But all of the development which have happened since then, including these new guidelines, clearly points toward a number of things which need to be done in the country. That we need to have a clarity on the guidelines. Our parents need to be assured about the safety of the children and health of the children. They need to be made aware that when to seek care. There have been many discussions about multi-system inflammatory syndrome of children, which has been reported in the media. But there is no reason to believe that this is being caused by this particular illness. It's simply that COVID-19 has brought attention on the health of the children. And it's a good opportunity to make people or parents aware about the health issue, when to seek care. And also, we have been hearing that state government need to prepare for pediatric wards and ICUs. But I would say that state governments need to prepare or strengthen the entire healthcare system, including healthcare system for children. They need to streamline the standard treatment guidelines for children, but standard treatment guidelines for adults also. In the last 1 year, we have witnessed that number of treatments which were prescribed or included in standard treatment guidelines for COVID-19 were not scientifically valid, even if there was a global evidence that a particular treatment such as plasma therapy or hydroxychloroquine does not work. Those were included in standard treatment guidelines. But now on 27th of May 2021, the government of India released all the guidelines which are really evidence-based. So there are a number of new developments are happening. There is a discourse going on strengthening health system, and not only for pediatric age groups. All of these are good development. And I think if whatever is being discussed today here, if that is carried forward and continued, the health of the citizen of this country and health of children of this country would be far better. So we need to carry that dialogue without fear or panic, strengthen health services for all age groups, keep generating data, dispelling the myths, educating parents, and that's what will be the positive outcome of the really challenging period which we have seen in terms of COVID-19.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think we need to also use the time now as the caseload comes down, as the second wave begins to now ease off. Use this time to prepare better, to understand, to collate our learnings from the last couple of months and figure out how that can be implemented for whatever happens next. Dr. Nagpal, if you can hear me, go ahead, please. We lost your audio line last time.
Yeah, I can hear you now. So what was the question? May I have it again?
No, so what we're trying to understand is if there are any change in the new guidelines, what is it that we need to be wary of when treating children?
See, these guidelines which have just come, they have come at absolutely the right time. We were already following similar guidelines which were by Indian Academy of Pediatrics, with very minor and little change. And that always happens because, as already mentioned, it's a dynamic change, dynamic process. Now, most important, which other members have also mentioned, that asymptomatic and mild infections just need to be observed, parents to be educated, red flags given. Depending on the criticality of the disease and its process, how it goes further, and the physiological impairment, And as the child, in case, moves to moderate to severe illness, the other parameters are taken into view. Corticosteroids have no role in asymptomatic and mild disease. However, in moderate and severe cases, sometimes corticosteroids may be necessary, but those have to be rationalized. It is the right dose at the right time and for right duration. This is what is important, and it has to be cross-checked again whether the child really needs steroids. Second thing which you mentioned in your opening statement was about the use of CT scans. I absolutely agree with not using CT scans in children in routine, certainly not for diagnosis, and there are reasons for it. One is the most important reason is that we don't want to give unnecessary radiations to the child. Two, it is very less number of times that CT scans will change our treatment line. The third is that there is sometimes a mismatch between the CT scan report and the clinical condition of the child. So we may jump into giving huge number of drugs, and sometimes we may undertreat. So the clinical basis is most important. The fourth is that about 40 to 50% of all children whose CT scan has been done, even in asymptomatic patients for whatever reasons, they show some signs. And this cannot be matched with the clinical symptoms. The last thing which you mentioned about the antiviral drugs, particularly remdesivir. Yes, remdesivir has no role in children. We do not know its efficacy. We do not know its tolerability. We do not know about its safety in children. In US, and I was reading a paper recently, in February 21, they gave remdesivir as a compassionate treatment to 77 children who were really very sick. In their study, they found that it had no side effects, not major side effects. Only 16% had some adverse side effects. But there was not much improvement because of the drug itself. They could not conclude anything. So as of now, remdesivir has no role in treatment of children as of now.
Yeah, so let me ask this question, Dr. Ravi, to you, because there is a larger debate about remdesivir and its use in COVID cases. There is also a larger debate about use of steroids, and experts say even for adults it should be used at the right time, in the right quantity, or also repeated warnings when it comes to resorting to CT scan as a method, and how we shouldn't be overly dependent on that. Is it any different when it comes to children, or are we just re-emphasizing on the same things?
I think all the clinical experts have said, and I entirely agree with them, we should definitely not depend entirely on these drugs. Remember, remdesivir does a lot of harm. It is not that it is the drug that does not have side effects. Similarly, CT scan exposes to radiation, as rightly mentioned, and steroids. All of them have to be used only when there are indications, and the indications in adults are absolutely clear. Unless there is a decrease in oxygen concentration, irrespective of whatever you find in tests, you don't treat laboratory tests, you treat patients. And when oxygen concentration should be the most important, and in case of children, respiratory rate is a very, very important marker, and I think that is very important. I just want to take this opportunity to say that I entirely agree with all panelists that we should not cause panic. But as a public health virologist, I would like to say, don't brush aside that children will not be affected because there is no data. Don't make the same mistake we made for the second wave. There are enough publications if people care to go and see how children are affected, what proportion of them will get hospitalized, how many of them will get serious. India has 30 crore children. I hope we get a vaccine by August for children, and it will depend on how many children we cover. But what is more important is all parents who are concerned should first get themselves vaccinated. That's the best way to protect your child. Infection is brought into the house from outside. And I think it's very important we should talk to children. Don't brush aside saying that they don't understand. Children are very intelligent lot. Start talking to children about COVID, about precautions. Also remember, if schools open, they can become super spreading events. Every country where schools were opened in the last 6 to 8 months have had super spreading events. So I think instead of brushing aside saying there is no evidence, so children will not get affected, I am not at all for it. Here is an opportunity to improve our infrastructure. Our children deserve it. An opportunity to talk to children about the disease and about what they can play as a role. Opportunity for parents to get themselves protected if they are concerned about their children, and hope that we will quickly get pediatric vaccines out. Otherwise, remember, this virus is new to humanity. It will catch the last individual on the planet till they are either infected or vaccinated. I'll stop here.
Till they are either infected or vaccinated. And so, is it possible, Dr. Sunila Garg, that as more and more adults get vaccinated, the virus evolves? However, it has to find it easier to infect children.
Yeah, number one, I like to say that if I could get your question correctly, that if the adults get vaccinated, if the adults follow COVID appropriate behavior, and children above 3 can also be taught about how to follow COVID appropriate behavior, because as of now, what I say is your most important social vaccine is your mask. So that is why, it is important to look at, the social distancing, sanitizing, and all these can be easily taught to the children. But I will like to bring to attention of our my panelists. You see, that means that India is huge country. We do not have pediatricians everywhere. Who is there at the PHC? It's only the medical officer. At the CHC also, we do not have pediatricians many times. And under Ayushman Bharat, we have got community health officer. And India, in its wide sense, has already got integrated management of neonatal and childhood illnesses, where we are already talking of pneumonias, where we are already talking of, diarrheal diseases. And who is looking at them? They are the paramedical workers who are looking at whether this child is suffering from mild illness, moderate, or severe. There are 3 criteria: ask, look, and feel. And then according to that, these children are being referred and categorized as mild, moderate, and severe. And it's not the first time that, now the COVID has come, but earlier also, on an average, the child suffers from 3 episodes of, severe diarrheal diseases or pneumonias. So that is where, we are, giving the syndromic management to the hands of paramedical workers also. Now, coming back to the issue of immunization, definitely, as and when the immunization, we should not panic, number one. Number two is that we are, going to get somewhere around 12 crore vaccines this month. And then, by the end of July, there will be, the government said about 52, but we can say, let's say about 30 crore. And August onwards, we are going to ramp up the vaccines. There would be, some vaccines which are, which we have already got in use, but there will be other vaccines which we are also going to get that. So it is important to vaccinate, and also the vaccination trials have already started, in India also for children. So, but then my priority will be to vaccinate children between 12 to 15 first. As you know, that in Indian scenario, one of the things which has caught attention is, and it is in rampant number, is Indian children are becoming obese now in large numbers. Obese means they are also developing comorbidities. So my priority will be, as a public health person, I'll say that, that please look at the immunization part. When we are going to the children, do look at that. Now, coming to the second, another important thing which I wanted to say, and Dr. Chandrakant also emphasized on that, we need to look at the horizontal approach, not the vertical approach. That means if we have only the pediatric committee, everywhere, we have to have an integrated committee which talks about the systems as a whole, where we talk of adults, where we talk of elderlies, where we talk of, the pediatric part. It is right time when we talk of integrated approach, so that, our physicians and all also, because everywhere pediatrician is not going to be there. So we need to train, in a generalist manner and in a specialist manner both. So these are some of the important critical issues which we need to keep in mind. But then again, vaccine is, very, very important. As I keep telling you, masking, testing, treating, tracking, and vaccination, MTV, these are the three things. And we need to go for standardized management of our protocol, which is already, come out. And as far as you were asking about remdesivir, this is only, for emergency use authorization in children who are admitted in high density unit. Again, we have to make sure that there are no, renal dysfunctions or liver dysfunctions and all that. So that is meant for very, very limited use.
Okay.
And again, steroids also, we have to make sure that they are used very, very rationally in cases of severe, diseases. So these are some of the important things. Thank you, Tanvi.
Okay, since you raised and re-emphasize on the idea of MTV, let me pick up the M part. And Dr. Dalwai, one of the things that caught my eye when I was going through these guidelines was that for children aged up to 5 are not required to wear a mask. Even for 6 to 11 may wear a mask depending on the ability of the child to use it safely and appropriately. Why is that?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up this point, and let me take it right there. The Indian Academy of Pediatrics has clearly advocated every child above 2 years of age has to wear a mask or is safe wearing a mask. But of course, between 2 to 5, parents need to supervise, be more involved in looking after how the child is disposing it off and taking care of it, just from the handling the mask point of view. But let me repeat this. The Indian Academy of Pediatrics has said every child above 2 needs to wear a mask. So much so that we are saying even while breastfeeding, if either of both the mother as well as the child needs to just wear a mask and get on with breastfeeding, because we know that's a very important aspect of nutrition. Let me come back to what my other esteemed co-panelists said earlier about training. And I'm very happy to say that Maharashtra was the first state to get off the blocks with having constituted a state pediatric COVID task force. The guidelines were brought out of almost a month back, and we've discussed it. And what we have done is the guidelines have been passed on to the government at an official level. The infrastructure is being readied, and even as we speak, being put into place. The other important aspect that my friend Dr. Chandrakant as well as Dr. Garg ma'am referred to is training the paramedics. So we've had 3 rounds of online training supervised by no less than the Chief Minister and the Health Minister. 1 round for general practitioners, 2nd round was training for pediatricians, and the 3rd round on this Monday was for the Anganwadi Sevikas and the Asha workers as we know them to be. And these trainings were in Marathi, which is a local language, and it's been put up on the various portals and is being taken again from village to village. So I completely endorse this point that we have to train everybody else, but I also welcome the state as well as the national guidelines, because it tends to standardize the kind of treatment everywhere, so there's no confusion. The final thing I'd like to say, I'm very happy, again, like my friend Chandrakantji said, we're bringing attention to overuse and abuse of antibiotics and steroids. And I'm happy to say that we will realize this, that steroids can potentially save a life, at the same time that can let you walk into the grave, as it said about it. So I'm very happy that India is having a sustained conversation about health. And I thank you and your channel and the others for driving this story up.
Right.
Finally, again, for parents, don't panic. Be careful, be armed with knowledge, information, but don't panic.
Yeah, the best way to deal with panic is actually to arm yourself with information, which is why it's important to have these conversations. Dr. Nagpal, would you want to comment on this as well, on the use of mask and what the advisory there, where there are different, views available?
Yes, there are certainly different views, because as the speaker spoke to me just previously, Indian Academy of Pediatrics as well as CDC US clearly identified that children above 2 years can wear a mask. Now, however, the WHO and the UNICEF have similar guidelines, what has been brought by the government of India, which is mask to be worn above 5 years of age only. I personally feel it has to be customized. It is the capacity to wear the mask correctly and take care of it with minimal assistance. Children are very smart. If they are educated, if they can put their mask properly and do not touch their faces and mask repeatedly, it is safe enough for children above 2 years, and if they are properly supervised, to wear the masks all the time. But this is my personal opinion. However, we have to go by the government advisories, and as well as WHO, they must have correctly thought of something. But I personally feel that above 2 years is all right to wear.
Let me ask you, this is primarily because of the, to the extent that their breathing system and their lungs would have developed. Why is there a difference in opinion on when you can wear a mask?
So there have been no long-term data or long-term studies about this. I have read about 2 studies which they did with N95 mask over children, and they did not find much difference in oxygen saturation of the babies. However, that was done only for the pollution part, not for the COVID disease. Having said this, I feel that children have smaller airways, smaller breathing airways less than 2 years. Their capacity to breathe through the mask and breathe out may make them irritable, and in some cases may make them suffocated. And I think less than 2 years is not feasible. But as I said, we have to customize with each child. A child who is smart, above 2 years, he can be educated how to look after his mask, how to store it, how to remove without touching the front of the mask. That's fine. Under supervision, above 5 certainly, and under 5, it has to be customized.
Okay. Let me follow this up and take it to Dr. Ravi also. Dr. Ravi, anything else that parents should know, to prepare themselves better as to what to do, what to watch out for in terms of this infection?
I think one of the things that parents should know is that when they send their children to school or when they take them outside, it's better to avoid crowding and to talk about it and closed spaces. We know very well what are the risk factors for acquiring COVID. I think that's very, very important. And I think it's better parents avoid going to any place that poses a risk for COVID transmission. At least till the children are immunized, and that at least till 70 to 80% of a population is immunized. And I think I would also like to appeal to everybody that teachers are a group of individuals who come in contact with a large number of children. And I think they should be considered frontline workers. Many states are already appealed to the government. They should also get immunized. One last point I would say, nationally, it's an opportunity for us to start looking at the data already among infected children, set up a registry, look at long-term effects of COVID on children who are already infected. And I think we will get a lot of learnings from that, because we know in adults, COVID has had long-term effects on the brain, on cognition, on the lung, on a number of other organs, on pancreas and diabetes. I think this is an opportunity. We have time. We should start looking at these things. And I think all my esteemed pediatric panelists here will agree that this is an opportunity to get health systems beefed up, streamlined, and make it perfect, because our children deserve more.
Oh yes, absolutely. In fact, that was going to be my last question as well. Dr. Leria, if you want to add to this fact that we know quite a bit now. I mean, obviously it's a learning, and as we go along, about the long-term impact of COVID in adults. But perhaps there's some one aspect where we need to study a bit more as far as children are concerned.
So a couple of points following up on my previous speakers. The first point is that we need to educate and generate awareness among us parents that which child should wear mask and how to correctly ensure that a child is wearing mask when he or she is going out. The key things to remember here are the two. One, that any child who is less than 2 years is not recommended to wear mask because of the reason explained earlier. The children who are wearing masks 2 to 5 years should be supervised, because there is a risk of wrongly using or touching the mask, which can further spread infection. So those are the things which we need to remember. The other point which I want to highlight is that though children do not develop severe disease, but parents need to be really aware and alert about the children who already have pre-existing disease condition. So what we have learned through the first and second wave of pandemic, that only those children who were already under treatment for some other health condition or were already sick developed severe COVID condition, moderate to severe COVID-19 disease. Otherwise, healthy children are really at low risk. So parents need to be aware about pre-existing conditions and take special care of those children. And finally, I would like to say that while vaccines for children would be useful and there would be a time when children need to be vaccinated, but we also need to keep expectations real, because we know that currently the focus is on adult vaccination. The vaccines for children are still in the clinical trial stage, so it will be another 2 to 3 months before vaccines will become available. The 0 to 18 population group is more than 40 crore in the country, which essentially means the number of doses required are really high, so we would not have. So let's also keep expectations real, and the government and the state government should start thinking that as and when vaccines become available, and Dr. Sunila Garg also highlighted that which target population will be prioritized,
Right.
so people do not get the rush and hurry that, okay, they need to get their children vaccinated. And final point is that most likely the children would need to be vaccinated with the vaccines which are more of a nasal vaccines, which will help in stopping the transmission also and preventing the child. So there are a number of factors, but good development overall.
So yes, and I completely
can I
agree
get
with you.
20 seconds?
Yes, yes, Dr. Dalwai, go ahead.
Just 20 seconds to say that there's a parallel pandemic going on of the mental stress, trauma, fear, anxiety, depression that children are facing due to this prolonged disruption in their social life, lockdowns, and the fear and the news going on all the time. Parents, please pay attention to that as well. Thank you.
No, just to follow up also, as more and more adults get vaccinated, and if the cases come down, there is a tendency to start reopening and acting as if life is normal. But what would be the advice for children? Can we afford to, for example, reopen schools until a percentage of the children population is vaccinated? Dr. Dalwai.
I would be very cautious against saying that. I would not be very much in favor of opening schools unless a substantial amount of the overall population as well as the children have been vaccinated. Because the situation in our schools is unlike that of the European countries or the Western countries. We have 40, 50, 60 children crowded in a classroom. Plus, we have teachers. There's a risk to the teachers as well. So we will have to worry about that. And again, to divert, but I'd just like to say, parents, please don't focus on academics. Focus on the mental trauma that children have gone through. Once schools reopen, don't be in a rush to cram the syllabus down their throats. This is not going to help. Your children need time to reacclimatize to the environment once we open it up. And it's not only about opening it up for schools, it's opening it up to get back to the normal life, social life as well. We lock them down overnight. Right. Reopening is also going to be stressful.
Right, more so because they haven't, and you know, any 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old who's now gone through 1.5 years of staying at home, studying at home, only interacting with those at home, is going to find it difficult on so many levels when this scenario changes again. So yes, you're absolutely right, and perhaps another day we will have a more detailed conversation about it as well. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us and taking a lot of the queries that I had, and I hope it's helped our viewers as well. So specific set of guidelines, different set of guidelines that have come as to how to manage COVID. If a child gets infected, remember, almost every state is already working on a plan, training their staff members, setting up special facilities, special wards, pediatric wards for the next round and subsequent. So preparations are on at multiple levels. But all of the experts do warn against overuse of steroids, overuse of CT scan, the use of remdesivir, or even the antimicrobacterials that are usually prescribed very easily. These are some of the things that we must keep in mind as the virus continues to evolve but stays between us, and so we need to keep ourselves updated as well, because that's the only way we can protect ourselves better. Thank you for joining us.